Welcome everybody to the book launch for soon-to-be banned Beat Poems. I'm really happy to have you all here today. It's nice to see such a wonderful turnout for a Saturday afternoon. I don't know about y'all where you're at, but it's been raining here, so might as well be at home and enjoy the company of fellow poets and appreciators of poetry. So, congratulations to Elliot in your book. How many books does this make now?
Very close to 40 as far as poetry.
Wow.
That is something else.
And I've done about 7 or 8 police/crime novels based on Brooklyn. And I've done 3 books of Jewish humor that I go and I speak at different Hadassahs in Jersey.
Oh, wow. Now, how is it that you came about doing a book about beat poems? What inspired this?
It actually was an accident. I did a poem once, and I didn't know anything about beat poetry. And Doug Stuber said, that's a beat poem. And I said, oh. And then I started to investigate and I started to read up on it. And the simple thing is I just Googled beat poets, and I had a plethora, as the Three Amigos would say, of names. And I started to read their stuff and read up about it, and then into what made beat poetry. And I've come to the conclusion, I have a woman in California in my Thursday group. She's an English teacher. And her definition is, if she can't bring it to an 8th grade English class, then she considers it beat poetry. And I was thinking the other day that if Maynard G. Krebs would read it, then it would be beat poetry. So you have to be of a certain age to understand, to remember who Maynard G. Krebs is. And if you do, then you understand it. And that's basically.
Show of hands if you remembered the Dobie Gillis show. You're right amongst your people.
So and I enjoyed it. I don't do sonnets. I do some haikus, and now I just started to do sudras. So my next book, I have a collection of 6 of them, which is basically a haiku, but dealing with people. It's the saying 575. And so I'm almost finished with my next book of another beat poetry book. I didn't title it yet, but I have the sudras at the end, so I may move them into a different book and just continue with the beat. But I started with novels, and I had no life when I did the novels, because I come home from work and I start writing, and then at 1 o'clock in the morning, go to bed, and then you wake up, go to work, come home, have dinner, and then you start writing again. And it would take me anywhere from 3 to 6 months to write a novel, and then another 3 to 6 months to edit it. And you're always writing a second book at the same time. And I took a class once at the community college on flash fiction and poetry. And I really took it for the flash fiction, because my first book was flash fiction. People's Stories in 600 Words is told by a raconteur. And they were based on real life people that I met. And I wasn't impressed with what she taught about flash fiction, but when she got to poetry, she introduced me to Charles Bukowski. And then all of a sudden, the proverbial light bulb went off, and I said, I could do that. And the rest is history.
Well, you do quite well. I think a lot of what I've seen with your other poetry, your other books, I've seen bits and pieces of this already, so it's been waiting to be told. It's been waiting for its own book.
Yes.
Those of you who have read a lot of Eliot's poetry, he always has that little clincher at the end, and he just knows how to pull it together and make his point in very few words. And it's always impressed me that you can do that.
Well, that was my problem with writing novels, because I write concisely. And when you write a novel, they go into the room, you have to describe the room. Yeah, but the what really helped me was getting into the critique groups. A friend of mine got me into one at Rutgers years ago, and that's where I met Bill. And there were some retired English teachers there who were probably in their 90s, I think, late 80s, early 90s. And I really learned a lot. And then I stayed in the groups, and that's how I learned it. You know, I was a business major. I was not an English major. You know, and I start with a handicap because I speak Brooklynese fluently, and I write the way I speak, and that's a problem, especially with spelling.
Well, I always say a poet can actually create their own kind of word, and sometimes it's better that way. So Hannah and I meet together on Friday mornings, and we sometimes create new words and decide that they are official because we did them. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
Probably makes
I've done
English
that.
teachers cringe. Okay, well, I know we have three poets here who are going to do some readings. And I'd like to start with Sarfraz. Sarfraz is from the UK, and he's a frequent flyer at these poetry gatherings. He's launched once or twice now.
Yeah,
Launch
once or
buddy.
twice.
So Sarfraz,
Brilliant.
tell us a bit about yourself, and let's hear some poetry.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you, Lisa. And just want to say what an honor it is to actually be here to be the launch of this book. Now, this book has been, I was telling Elliot this actually, is been with me now for the last week or so. And a little bit earlier because I got to do a review, and I'll talk about the review and the blurb that I did for the book as well. So my name's Safraz. I've been writing, actually, believe it or not, for about 20 odd years, but it was only in the period of lockdown that I got published, which was complete utter surprise to me, and a publisher actually quite liked my poetry, and that was the 84 Pins collection. And then it just didn't stop, because after that, and lockdown helped because the reach was quite big and people were reaching out for poetry. And then I got picked up I picked up and noticed quite a lot in the States with Annette Tarpley. And I think at that time, Lisa, I think you interviewed me when that new book came out, and I was kind of fresh-faced on the scene. I'm actually an administrator for the Passion of Poetry as well, one of the biggest Facebook groups of poetry in the UK. Sorry, in the world. Sorry, and it's just been crazy. And I think in the last year or so, I've been doing live poetry events. I've been doing spoken word. I'm booked in for 2 festivals. I've hopefully got at least 1 or 2 books coming out this year that I'm working on. I joined Elliot's group last January, and it actually changed. He did actually 100% change my life, because it was Elliot that actually introduced me to Charles Bukowski, and that changed the way that I thought of how a poem was going to put together. So what I'd like to do before I start reading from this fantastic book, which I think we've all seen the fantastic cover, and what a great job you've done, Lisa. I think you've done an amazing job to put Elliot's work together in this way, because I've always said to Elliot, because his books are fantastic. I wish I could buy all of 40 and have all 40 of them around me, but I'm working on it. That's slowly a slow burner for me. I've got about 6 or 7 actually, but this one is kind of one of my favorites, because with Elliot's got an edge, and he writes in that way that no one else writes. It's an Rubin poem, and you can tell it's Elliot's style. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to read 2 poems, but I want to start by talking about when Elliot asked me to write the back blurb, and I'll tell you quickly about that. So one of the things that has happened in the last, I want to say, a couple of years, people have asked me to write the back of the books. These are friends and people that I know. But I think this year, 2 people who asked me to write the back blurb completely humbled me to the point where I said, I've got to do my best. The first one was Zanita Jones, or Zan Johns, and for the book Encore, which hopefully I did her justice. And then secondly was Elliot. And when Elliot asked me, I was completely humbled. I thought, wow, this is my mentor, this is someone that I actually aspire to, and I'm writing the back blurb for him. So I'm going to read a little bit. I won't read all of it because it's a long back blurb. I'm just going to read the last bit. Soon to be banned Beat Poems is a book of poems that highlights the underbelly of society. Elliot writes about discreet meetings in bars and stay-out late places of love, lust, and desire, and all that is in between, sprawled across the streets of America. His poems are fiercely spontaneous and creative. This is a modern-day classic which breaks the mold of all that has gone before and earned its place amongst the literacy classics. So congratulations, Elliot. I think you're number 2 on Amazon. If I could buy more books, if I could buy more copies, I would be buying more copies to get it right up to number 1. Okay, I'm going to read 2 poems.
Fred, if you buy 40
Yes.
books, I put your picture in my living room.
Do you know, when I'm on it, I'm nearly there. I think I've got about 6 or 7. And I'm on it. It's going to be one of those things that in my lifetime I will get an Elliot Rubin collection in the UK. Okay, so I'm going to read 2 poems, and there's actually a few more that I found that were absolutely fantastic. And one of the best poems is called Mick Jagger, which I might get to read, but I'm going to read some. Call her a bisexual lipstick lesbian. She flips both ways. Some days it depends if she wants to fem up, maybe to attract another woman. The butch girls always go crazy when she walks into clubs to play. Their eagerness feeds her ego, wants them to think she's easy. Every night, never alone. Always on a pink lady's phone to someone she calls too often. He stays over all night till dawn. Someone her to make up her mind. 10 years he enjoys being with her kind. In no rush to change her lifestyle. With patience, he'll love her meanwhile. And that's actually what I call her. And that's a great example of Elliot, because what I like about Elliot's writing, he goes there, he goes to those places that we talk about, that we think about, the underbelly, the ugliness of society, the kind of discrete locations and where people meet. He talks about a world that perhaps that we don't know, but Elliot knows, and he knows a lot about it, and we want to know more. So thank you, Elliot, for that.
My wife, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Elliot, can I just ask, is anyone reading Mick Jagger tonight?
No.
Is someone reading Mick Jagger?
No.
No, okay, so I'm going to change it up a bit, and I'm going to read Mick Jagger. Now, for those of you that got the book, it's on page 91. Yeah, everyone got the book?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read Mick Jagger from the fantastic, soon-to-be banned Beat Poetry by Elliot Rubin, Mick Jagger. One of the best poems I've read in such a long time. Mick Jagger. If I can come back after death, I don't want to be his lips, or sleigh shaying swivel hips, nor jumping, stomping legs. If only given one choice of his throaty singing voice or a bar smoke-filled lung, I want to be his tongue. Oh, to travel where it has been, a mouthful life of sin, between lips of female faces, plus other feminine places. I really want to be old Mick Jagger's tongue. Thank you. And that's an example. That's one of the best examples of poetry that I've heard. I think the first time when Elliot actually read that out, we just laughed. And but it's more than just a laughter poem. This is Elliot Rubin, and this book is if it's not number 1. By the end of tonight, this is going to be crazy, but it will be a number 1 bestseller. Thank you.
Safras, what page is that?
I just had it. It's on page 91. Mick Jagger. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Surprise. That was a bit of a naughty poem, but how'd that slip in there?
I love it. I love it.
Am I blushing? Okay. Next is Carol Johns. Carol,
Hi,
can you tell
everyone.
us a little bit about what's going on?
My name is Carol, and I met Elliot during COVID. We'd signed up for a poetry class, and it was to be given Zoom because of the COVID. And I see that I have some of my former group members here. I see Rich, I see Sue. Elliot was our group leader. After the class ended, he decided, and Bill, of course. After the class ended, he said, why should we stop? Let's just keep going. And we did for 2 years. And he got me writing. I'm a retired teacher. He got me to do a little bit of writing. Of course, I fell off the wagon and I have not done much since I left the group. But Elliot was a great group leader. He managed a very large group of varying personalities. And I think he did a wonderful job. And what I want to say is, when we first started the group, I was so impressed with how Elliot's work really started to emerge and get stronger as he went along. And if anyone is a testament to practice makes perfect, it surely is Elliot. I have 2 poems that I want to read. One of them is on page 3. The first one that I'm choosing is, I think he is an expert at doing snapshots of things. He doesn't put a lot of extra details. He just gives you the facts. And I love the way he does this. All right, so on page 3, the title of this poem is Closed. The city is dead. Skyscrapers reach to the sky. Buildings look gray. Barren streets, the French forest of Argonne, as fog smolders like poisonous gas. Death reeks everywhere. Barren storefronts, out of business signs, addicts asleep on concrete, homeless sleep in cardboard boxes, bodies, everywhere bodies, emaciated bodies, walking dead stare blankly ahead at nothing. Nothing is their future. In the golden city by the bay, opportunities buried in past glories. Yellow forward mail slips are tombstones taped to front doors. Only uber wealthy live there anymore, in nosebleed apartments, to look down on working girls who wander black asphalt in ultra short skirts and translucent tops, while sirens screech, race, weave in dense traffic to deal with another tragedy of humanity. Now that's a great snapshot. I really, really like that one. And the other one I want to read is on page 14, and it's entitled Rooms. And one of the things I like about this poem is the litany format actually supports the theme of the poem. So form and theme work together. So you see this litany kind of devolving into this very sad cycle that you know is not going to end well. Rooms. In rooms like these, memory metastasizes to the roots of childhood, where drunk adults stumble or fight over nothing at all. In rooms like these, where breakfast's the treat, lunch a school handout, dinner either soup or cold leftovers from the diner where mom works nights the day before. In rooms like these, I made love to a neighbor for the first time, not the last, and where my heart broke too many times in youth. In rooms like these, love was elusive, never exclusive, most of the time effusive. It never lasted, except for my tears, which never end. In rooms like these, I expect to die by myself.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Hannah and I were discussing that poem yesterday about how we really could relate in some, I think anybody reading that poem can relate to some part of that poem. You know, if you grew up, and I'm a boomer, so he grew up in the boomer time. There's probably some part of that poem that's going to resonate with you. But yeah, we were going through that yesterday, weren't we, Hannah? It's a really great poem.
Yeah, it is a great poem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill, you're up next.
Well, that's nice to know. I always come up at the end, carry everything on. Elliot and I belong to a reading group where we met a writing group where we first met ourselves in the beginning after he came and left Brookdale College. And we had this large group, and the group left and boiled down. It was just Elliot and I. And we're together again. We haven't lost each other. We went through this thing and we just brought it up even further and further. I'd like to read a poem. I'm not sure the page, but it's called Missing because I have printed it off the Kindle. And the Kindle is a really good deal because I get all of Elliot's poems and I can go through them, but I don't need a page.
Page
I can
6.
just, thank you. So page 6 is missing. I lost it. Can't find it. If you do, will you return it? No reward. Do the right thing. Why wouldn't you? I would. If I found it, but I lost it. Not here. Somewhere. Not there. Don't know where. I lost it. So you see, you can actually feel, right, the strength in the poetry and the words when you read it. And words are what makes poet. All right. Well, let's see if I can find this. The next one is called Fertility, and that page is what? Fertility.
11. Page
Thank
11.
you. Elliot, your voice changed. Fertility. Titillating test tube sex is the future of procreation. It'll be how folks get satisfaction. Cut and dry. Now you can cry. Courting is passe every way. No kisses, dating misses, or marriage. And someday, by appointment at the lab, to make babies will be on the way. So you can see how much fun it can be when you read poetry. And poetry was meant to be spoken. So, and Elliot brings that out quickly and with brevity.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Bill.
Wonderful. Appreciate that. Now, Bill, you had mentioned the writing groups with Elliot. How many groups are you doing now, Elliot?
I'm only running 2.
You're running
And,
2 now?
Yeah, and they're pretty full. So it's Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon at 4, and Thursday also. I have no openings, unfortunately, or fortunately, and keeps me busy. Plus, I'm in a group up in Vermont and one down in Hamilton, New Jersey. So I'm in 4 or 5, and because I won't publish anything until it gets critiqued.
Right.
This way I
I
know.
appreciate that. By the time it gets to me, it's really well done, perfected. So,
I mean, and before it goes to a group, I could go over it 3, 4, 5 times. I had one poem that I did 26 revisions, which is a lot for me. But I wanted to get it right, and that's rare. Normally I'll do it 5, 6, 7, 8 times before I even bring it to a group. Because as you read it, you find something, and and you have to correct it. So that's how I do it. Because the groups are important, and I learn. I try to have people smarter than me in there.
well, I would like to invite I really tickled a funny bone.
That was my daughter, Amy.
Hey, Amy. I would
Sorry,
like
I
to, you must be proud of your father.
I am.
Yeah, I can see why. I would like to invite anyone who would like a Kindle copy of the book. It's only available to US, unfortunately, because of the way that it's set up. But if you would like a copy of the Kindle copy of the book, put your email in the chat. And if you don't want other people to see it, just do it as a private chat to me, and I'll see that you get a copy. And I'm going to turn this over to Elliot to share his poetry, his words. Everybody wants to hear your accent. We had a request.
You know, I can never lose it.
He doesn't have an accent.
Sounds perfectly normal
If
to
you're from
me.
Brooklyn, you know,
He considers it a different language, not
Yeah.
an accent.
you know, I do readings to a lot of Jewish groups with my Jewish books. And I always start out by saying I'm bilingual. I speak English and I'm fluent in Brooklynese. And if you don't hear my accent, then we're going to feel right at home. So I'm going to read this poem called, it's on page 97, Mary Tyler Moore's Doppelganger. The high school lunchroom's noisy. Hundreds of teens find a table, some with friends, some with strangers. I sit with guys I know from class. Across the lunchroom, I spot her with her girlfriends, eating, talking. She is a teenage clone of America's sweetheart, only a few dozen feet from where I am. To me, the distance between us is insurmountable. The Pacific Ocean is a shorter distance. We never happened, we never spoke. She never knew I existed. Yet 60 years later, she still sits there in my mind where I can casually write of her today.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And let's see. There's one other one that I really enjoy, and this is led me to the title of the book. The title is "Why'd You Do It, Abby Hoffman?" Our country needs you. It's on page 95. Why'd you do it, Abby Hoffman? Our country needs you. Why did you end it too soon? We had 4 years of leaderless leaders with an undereducated narcissist who never read anything. Where were the demonstrators? The Chicago Sevens convention mayhem with masses protesting. Instead, the lambs tisk tisk said he's incompetent, yet nothing changed. Our country needed you. Why'd you do it, Abby Hoffman?
Mm.
And that's how I got the title to the book, because I was looking for a title and I wanted something that would really catch. And I thought of, if you remember, his book was Steal This Book. That was the title of his book.
Yeah.
And it was such a thing that I said, I need something like that. And that's how I came up with banned beat poems. And then Lisa said, you have to add it because it's not banned yet. So within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be sending requests down to libraries in Florida to take the book, and I'm waiting to get a rejection. That's what I'm doing. And that's the 2 posts that I'm going to read today. And
Maybe Texas.
Texas too. That's a good idea. Didn't think of that. And that's it. You know, I enjoy poetry. It's an outlet. It's a means of expression. And I tell people, anybody can do it. You know, there's different levels. You know, you can get yourself crazy with sonnets and rhymes, and you know, with meter. Or you can just write and see what happens. You know, I've come to learn about interior rhymes and consonant rhymes and stuff like that. And occasionally, you know, I try to do that, you know, if it fits in. And it's just an outlet, you know, it's an outlet to express myself. And that's the long and short of it. And I thank everyone for coming today. I appreciate it, really. And I want to thank Carol and Bill and Safraz for their reviews. They were wonderful reviews. Thank you. It's greatly appreciated.
We can't ever say enough about gratitude for reviews, can we? Because
No.
they were
Especially
like
when they're-
gold.
Especially when they're good.
Well, they're bound to be good if they're reading your poetry.
You know, the Broadway play continues. It's not closing. You know, last week I was speaking to somebody, and you know you're writing too much poetry when you start to think and you start to speak in metaphors. You know, and I caught myself. I said, "Uh-oh."
You were talking about the library. Yeah, one of the people not in this group today, but told me that they actually had friends go onto their library site for the area that they lived in and request their book, and the library ended up putting their book in the library. Like I can't go in and request my own book to be added, but somebody else could do that. And a lot of times, because the libraries, have a budget, and sometimes they will do that. And libraries don't usually have very many poetry books. And so it might encourage them to dip into the poetry budget and add some books. So
I'll stop and I'll talk to him.
yeah,
Good idea.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Our local library, they require you send in 5 of your books, and they will review them and then let you know if they're going to add them to the shelves, but you have to supply them. But some libraries, if you have someone else ask for them, then they'll spend the money and put it out of their budget. So then it counts as a book purchase. So. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add or comment on? We have an open forum here. Joni?
I think I just want to. Add. I just want to mention. I think when I first met Elliot, it was about a year ago. It was January 2023, and it was Jill Sharon Kimbleman who actually introduced me to Elliot, and I kind of came into this critique group, and I was the only English person there, which didn't really matter because I think I'm more inclined to the US writers. I'm very influenced by the US writers. But I think when I met Elliot, one of the things that occurred to me after, I was like, wow, this poet is the most underrated poet in the whole of the US or the world. And I felt at that time, I felt to shout and let everyone know that, oh my God, this is Elliot. And he's absolutely, his poems are something else. But I think a year later, and I think meeting you and getting the books out there, I think we're kind of, kind of tackling that myth that Elliot is underrated, because I think you're very, very rated, Elliot. And I just want to congratulate you on your book. And sincerely, and I think you're not just a poet who writes poetry. I think you influence so many people, and you probably don't realize how many people you've inspired and mentored along the way, especially people that have come and gone in the critique group. I have never ever been to a class of creative writing ever. But for me, coming to the critique groups and meeting Elliot and Bill and everyone else there, for me, that is 2 hours that I spent. That's actually me training my craft of poetry. So thank you very, very much, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed your poetry anyway. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sabra. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Joni had her hand up.
I just, well, congratulations. That's a big deal. Really happy for you. And I just wanted to say that I was amazed and still am amazed at how prolific you are. I mean, to get up and be able to write 2 or 3 poems the day of a class. I mean, I just admire that because I don't have that kind of talent. I mean, I have to be in the mood. I can't just say, okay, I'm going to sit down and compose, and you can really do that, and the quality doesn't change. And that's really a gift, I think. I mean, I know you worked hard at your craft. I'm not saying that, but I don't think I've ever met anybody as prolific as you are. And that's really something. And I appreciated your class very much and hope to attend again soon. But I've been busy with my book. But congratulations, really, Elliot.
Thank you very much.
It's a great book.
Yeah, we miss you, Joni.
Thank you. Thank you.
Patricia has her hand up. Thank you, Joni.
Hi, Elliot. Congratulations. I love hearing other people read your poetry. Just fantastic. Now I'm going to have to get the book. But I have two questions for you. When you write your poetry, do you write on a laptop or do you put it in a notebook and then transcribe it into your
I,
laptop?
I 98% of the time I write on my iPad.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And that, it's just easy. I'm sitting on my recliner and I'm very good at one finger writing. And then when I think I'm finished, I email it to myself and then I reread it because I write in notes on my iPad.
Okay.
And then I make corrections and then I copy, paste, I resend it and delete the first email. And I send myself 5, 6, 7 emails. And then eventually it gets to my desktop to my iMac, and then I switch it into a book, copy and paste it into a book.
Wow, fascinating. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's all.
And the second question, on the top of your head, name 6 of your favorite poets. You don't have to say why or anything. And I know they change from week to week, but who are like 6 in the top of your head that you really admire and are inspired from?
Well, the ones that really got to me was, of course, Charles Bukowski, Frank O'Hara, and then Ferlinghetti for the beats, a little Ginsberg. There was Corso. What do you call it? William Carlos Williams. Years ago, one of my pieces, I had a review. Some guy on Instagram read one of my poems. It was the circus car. I don't know if anyone remembers with the clowns in the car, and it was a 2-pager, which I rarely do. And he gave me a really nice review, and he said it reminded him of William Carlos Williams. So I started to read William Carlos Williams. And that's what you do, And I take classes at Rutgers, continuing education. There's a poetry class. It's only like 5, 6 weeks, and then they stop for a few weeks and they start again. And basically, I go just to hear what poet she's going to introduce, and explain what that poet does. And then I end up writing 2, 3, 4 poems based on what I heard. Because I only have to hear a word or a phrase, and then I'm off to the tracks if it catches my ear or my eye. Recently that Talk Poetry, the blog in England, interviewed me, and I said to her, I said, basically, I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist. I write what I see, what I hear, and I just write it differently than you would find in a newspaper. You just have to keep your eyes and ears open, and you'll see things. Even on the late news, I see something. Like I wrote a poem yesterday. There was a movie where there was a spinster was talking about she got married at 18. The husband went to war, died, and she never remarried because she couldn't love anyone as much. And now she's saying, I don't have any children, any grandchildren. And I put it into a poem. I just finished it yesterday, and I was very touched by it. That's what I do.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Karuna, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, Elliot. Congratulations on yet another great book.
Thank you.
So, for everyone else, I'm actually part of Elliot's group as well, his poetry critique group, and I really find it useful for quite a few things. And I just want to say, Elliot, you actually set the standard, because you say you do about 5, 6 poems every week. You churn them out every week. I might do 10 poems a month on average. So you really set the standard with generating so much poetry, and it makes sense that you've written so many books thus far. But yeah, I think the poetry critique groups are really interesting. I think I like the point that you make before about how you go through revisions yourself, you put them forward in front of a small group, and you wait for kind of feedback, corrections, and then you go away and then kind of think about it before releasing. I think that's a very good strategy to make solid poetry, and I do a bit of that myself. So I just want to say I really appreciate your critique group, because like Safra says, there's I haven't come across anything better. There are groups where you just read your poetry, and that's great, but there's no feedback. So you know, this is really something. It's very rare to find that. And actually, I came across Elliot's poetry back in 2022 with Safras introduced me, because Safras is friends with my sister who's here, Pratibha, and so in that way, you know, it's really good making connections. And then now I've met Patricia, Roberta, Joni, I've seen you once, and of course Bill. You're always there, and it's so great.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill has his own style, which is really good, and I resonate with some of that. And then Elliot has his style, and I sometimes, you know, take some of their styles and I kind of incorporate the concept of the style into my own poetry, so that this kind of sharing amongst poets is really good. So I think really recommend Elliot's poetry critique group if anyone does get in. You know, it's really worth it.
Well, Elliot will say it's a tight group, and he challenges me every week. He'll say, "Did you do your 3?" I have to say, "Well, wait a minute, I got an extra one." I say, "Okay," because I always want to try to do one more. So Elliot always challenges me to keep writing each week at least 3 or 4 poems.
It's good to be
Yeah.
challenged.
Yeah, well,
I
Pratibha?
didn't say no.
Bill does a lot of sonnets, primarily sonnets. And when he does a free verse poem, I tell him he went to the dark side of the force.
Pratibha has her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Elliot. Congratulations on your book. I am going to get one of the books. I just haven't had a chance to do that, but I'm learning a lot about you today on this launch. I mean, I've heard from my brother, Karuna and Safraz, about you, but I don't really know much about you personally, and we've not really chatted. So this has been a great way for me to understand about your book, about you. So I'm really, really glad I came to your launch, and I'm looking forward to getting one of your books.
Appreciate it.
And I would love to come to a critique group, but the thing is, I just can't commit every week because I have a child, so I haven't joined it. That's the only reason I haven't been able to do it. Unless one time, Elliot, you feel like, okay, we'll have a guest poet who could just pop in like 1 or 2 sessions. If you're ever considering that, then I'd be happy to come along. But I'm just telling you why I couldn't do it on a regular basis at the moment. But I am learning. I've learned so much from Karuna, my brother, and Safraz, that, you know, your critique groups have been an eye-opener for people who write. So I'm very inspired, and I'm looking forward to reading your poetry as well. And what I've heard so far has been very, very interesting, fascinating, and I love short poetry. And yeah, and you just make it concise. So I'm really excited about it also. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Elliot, I need you to pick a number between 4 and 13.
8.
8, okay, so let me count. Okay, Rich, you won a paperback copy of the book.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank
And I
you.
know where you are, so you don't have to give me your information. All right.
Look forward to it.
Yes,
Congrats.
Roberta.
Elliot.
I just wanted to say that Elliot is a force of nature. At the risk of using a cliche, I met him on the meetup run by Rodney at the first on Zoom and then at the Hamilton, New Jersey Library. And Elliot's really encouraged me to write. He's always got interesting comments to make, interesting things to say, and it's a continual encouragement for me as an attempting poet. And I'm really glad to be part of this book launch and to read Elliot's poetry in Kindle or in a book form. Thanks, Elliot.
Thank you, Roberta.
I don't think you've given your Brooklyn upbringing enough credit, though. It deserves at least 50% of the credit.
You know, my daughter, my oldest daughter, Beth, tells me that I don't pronounce tuna correctly. She said, Dad, there's no R in tuna. I said, there isn't that. It's tuna. She said, no, Dad, you're still saying it wrong. But there's just some things in life you can't change.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming out today. Any final thoughts, Elliot?
No, it's been lovely. Thank you. I appreciate everyone's coming. You know, what I like to say is my poetry made strangers into friends, and that's the biggest takeaway I could take away from it. You know, I appreciate that more than anything.
That's nice.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
You're
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot.
Thank you. I'll see everyone soon.
George,
Take care. Have a good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thanks.
Bye,
Yeah.
Elliot.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
So long, Carol.
Bye.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.